with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. And then Jesus told this parable to his disciples. The kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out at dawn to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with them for the usual daily wage, he sent them into his vineyard. Going out about 9 o'clock, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and he said to them, "You too, go into my vineyard, and I will give you what is just." So they went off, and he went out again around noon and around 3 o'clock and did likewise. Going out about 5 o'clock, he found others standing around and said to them, "Why do you stand here idle all day?" They answered, "Because no one has hired us." He said to them, "You too go into the vineyard." When it was evening, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Summon the laborers and give them their pay, beginning with the last and ending with the first." When those who had started about 5 o'clock came, each received the usual daily wage. So when the first came, they thought that they would receive more, but each of them also got the usual wage. And on receiving it, they grumbled against the landowners, saying, "These last ones worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, who bore the day's burden and the heat." He said to one of them in reply, "My friend, I am not cheating you. Did you not agree with me for the usual daily wage? Take what is yours and go. What if I wish to give this last one the same as you? Or am I not free to do as I wish with my own money? Are you envious because I am generous? Thus, the last will be first, and the first will be last." Friends, the gospel of the Lord. Jesus Christ. Thank you for reading with me. Some of you have been following these readings. If you notice that this week we've been following the readings of Ezekiel. Ezekiel, not too long ago, we also followed through the readings from Jeremiah. As you know, prophets had a very, in the Old Testament, there's a motif, what we call that what did prophets do? Basically, they did two things. One, first, they go and warn the people. And secondly, they preach the good news. Warn the people. Why? Because the people, they were sent to their own people, Israel. So what happened to the people of Israel at this time? This is very important for us to understand, because the people of Israel, the same people of Israel who were under slavery for 400 years in Egypt, right? The same people. Well, this was generations after generations. And then when God freed them from Egypt for 400 years of slavery, God sent Moses, and they were brought to the desert for 40 years. And there God showed them marvels after marvels, miracles after miracles, the Red Sea parted, and all so many other. And God reminded them always at that time that, "Do not forget what you have seen with your own eyes. Tell this to the next generation, that there is a God who rescued you and took care of you and brought you to the land of milk and honey." So the generation that arrived in the promised land turned out to be the reverse. They forgot God. They forgot that their history. They forgot what God did in their past, and somehow they became entitled. They became arrogant. They became injustices abound in their midst, and especially against the last and the least among them. We know who these last and the least, right? The poor, the widow, the helpless. And so, meaning the people of Israel who used to be slaves now became tyrant among themselves, among their own people. So that is why, because they've been chosen by God to be God's chosen people, God could not just get rid of them, right? That easy. That's why God sent them prophets to help them, to save them, to bring them back to God, morally, spiritually, because they have deviated from, anyway, prophets after prophets were sent. Now, Ezekiel is kind of an interesting prophet, because he not only, the previous chapters, Ezekiel kind of castigated, God used the mouth of Ezekiel to remind them, what have you done? What have you done? Don't you know because of this, God has allowed foreign invaders to invade you and make this place desolate and kill many of your people. So this is kind of at the verge of invasion by the Babylonians. And so anyway, yesterday we heard also from the mouth of Ezekiel that God also blame the people around Israel for causing the pagan nations around Israel for causing Israel to deviate from their path. You know, this pagan, you, because you're powerful, you took advantage of my people. Look what you've done to them. They no longer know me. And now today, we just heard God, through the mouth of Ezekiel, indicted the priests, the leaders of the people. What have you done? You had the task of continuing to remind these people of Israel, but you have abandoned your task. You became selfish priests. You became selfish leaders, and you will not be spared from this upcoming invasion. So anyway, it's kind of reminding us the responsibility, inviting us. Of course, why are we reading this today? Because and perhaps, we are living in this world today, in our life today, where there's a strong temptation to be, to forget what God has done in our lives. And we have the tendency, I'm not talking about the people outside, we're talking about ourselves, because it is us who are listening to this. Sometimes we are tempted to say that, when I go home, I'll tell my husband, I'll tell my wife about. No, this is primarily for us, because perhaps God has seen something in our lives that's not true. Perhaps God has seen something in our lives that are inauthentic. That's why God calls us first to be reminded of what really God has done in our lives. Because if we are not true to who we are, that's why our younger generations, our children are no longer coming to church. You know why? I don't know if I've shared this story that, this father came up to me after Mass and I said, Father, where have I gone wrong? I worked, when I was a young married man, and I worked 2 or 3 jobs because I wanted my children to go to Catholic schools, because nowadays, public schools have completely eliminated faith in the program. And that's why because faith is so important for my father. Faith is so important for me that what happens if they grow up and they get married and something happens in their marriage? Where would they go to? Right? What if illness comes in the future? Where do my children go? Where are they going? That is why I'm not a rich man, Father. I'm not a rich man. I don't have money. I don't have a house. I have a house, but I'm not a rich man. But the legacy that I can pass on to them is this faith. And so he kind of started crying, and where have I gone wrong, Father? Well, where do I start? I mean, of course, the church, has a big responsibility. We could have done more, teaching, reaching out. But more so, what about parents? During our baptism, when parents and sponsors, we were all given the task to nurture the seeds that were sown in the hearts of our children. Have we been good models? Have we been good models in our marriages? Have we been good models as a priest? Have we been good models surrounding our children? If that were the case, then perhaps our children would have had some inspiration. But this man said, but Father, my children no longer go to church. They're not even married in the church. Father, whatever. So he was kind of a very authentic, a very humble man who saw himself. And again, this is something that the first reading, the words of the prophets are trying to remind us of who we are. Because we could easily carry the name and yet live life so differently. But that is why the gospel that we just heard this morning is a very, very positive, comforting gospel. This gospel of the landowners who is walking and then passing by people sitting down idly by and not doing anything. And at the end of the day, they were all hired. At the end of the day, they were paid the same thing. So what does that mean? I think what this means is that there's all chance for everybody. We all have hopes. I have hope as a priest. You have hope as parents. Our children have hopes, even if they are not coming to church anymore. Our many people who are not coming, everybody has hope. We live in hope. No one can tell anyone that, hey, just look at the thief on the side of the cross, right? The thief on the side of the cross. He may have been a criminal all his life. Remember that. And then a few minutes before he died, and Jesus pronounced or declared him to be with him to paradise. So whether you and I, we have responded to Catholic teaching at an early stage of our lives, or perhaps when we were teenagers, we lapsed in our observance, or perhaps at later age, we were sort of distant from God, or even towards the last day, shortly before our last breath, we can return to God, because that is who God is, a God who always, there was a story about when God created Adam and Eve. This is a beautiful story of the Jewish Midrash. And God gave Adam and Eve freedom. And Satan, right on the side, said, are you really going to give them freedom? Because if you do that, these people will rebel against you. These people will go against you. And God said, I know my humanity, my people will go against me. They will betray me. But I also created, in Hebrew it's called teshuvah. I also created a door for them to come back. I think this is truly a good news for all of us. That the Eucharist, and everybody has a chance. Everybody has hope. Everybody has a moment for us to. But at the end of the day, we're all free, aren't we? We are free to enter that door, or like that older brother of the prodigal son. He did not enter the house. No, only the younger brother and the father. But this older man, he stayed outside. He was free. We are all free to refuse God's invitation to return to Him. But otherwise, if we do that, then what a missed opportunity. That is why, as we receive Jesus today, dear friends, we all receive as returnees. We return to God. We return to God because we have a God who never gives up on us, a God who loves us so much.